there's so much research on the plant because it has been around for so long. It's like one of those plants that's like an ancestor to us. It's so prevalent in so many cultures and traditions. Hawthorn just really like took me literally away with the fairies, I felt like.
Welcome to the Herbs with Rosalee podcast, a show exploring how herbs heal as medicine, as food, and through connecting with the living world around you. In this episode, I'm joined by Ruthie Kølle to explore Hawthorn, a plant that's been part of healing traditions, protection stories, and everyday life for many generations. We talk about the qualities that make Hawthorn such a steady companion during both strong and tender moments, and why so many people feel drawn to it once they get to know it. Hawthorn is one of my favorite trees, and hardly a day goes by that I don't engage with this lovely herb in some way. There's just something about Hawthorn that stays with you, and I think you're going to feel that in this conversation. And if you enjoy this episode, please give it a thumbs up so more plant lovers can find us, and be sure to stay tuned until the very end for your herbal tidbit. Ruthie, I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Rosalee. I'm thrilled to be invited and to be here talking about one of my favorite plants today.
Yay. Oh, I'm so excited for your favorite plant because it's also mine. I'm so excited to just like personally be able to spend some time with you. We got to meet each other very briefly at International Herb Symposium, where we found we had a mutual admiration for each other. And you've been on my radar for so long. So this is just really fun to be able to spend some time together talking about our favorite things. And I would first of all, I guess I just want to like fangirl a little bit more. I loved your booth at IHS. It was so beautiful. I never connected with you there. I went there like several times when you weren't there, and just the ceramics. And I bought one of your bitters, like the orange pomander bitters, which I've been really enjoying. I meant to bring them up for this, but you just imagine they're really yummy. And just your whole booth was just a really lovely vibe and experience. So that's
Thank
fun to be
you.
able to see you with your wares.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, vending at conferences is one of the most fun things. We get to meet, you know, new friends, old friends, and teachers, and just everyone's there doing their favorite thing, talking about their favorite thing, experiencing the plants for the whole weekend. It's like you're just in this happy little plant bubble for a few days, and it's
Yes.
always hard to come back home and reintegrate after such wonderful experiences.
Yeah, there's so much, just plant energy and good people and everything. Yeah, yeah. Well, I would love to start with hearing more about you and what brought you onto the plant
Okay. So I would say I can pinpoint the moment where I felt really called and welcomed onto this path by the plants. And it has to do with the day that my grandmother died.
path.
Um, she she was born and lived on the farm where I grew up. It's a multi generational farm. And I had the privilege of caring for her in the end of her life. And I didn't learn any herbal things from her, but I learned how to care for and tend the land.
Hmm.
Um, so the day that she passed away, someone gave me a pine tree sapling, and I came home and decided where to plant it. And I can still like very vividly recall like the smell and the feel of the soil as I was digging the hole, um, the way the little rootlets looked as I splayed them out in the hole, and the feel of the rocky dirt in my hands and patting it down around the roots, and just kind of planting her spirit into my own earth space. I just felt like a welcome. I felt like the plants were like, okay, you're welcome here, and now this is the start, and you know welcome to our green realm. So that's kind of how I got started on the plant path. And at first you do a lot of self study and looking at other herbalists online, and there was a handful of herbalists I can recall referring to very often in my early learning days, and you were one of them. And so I took a year long just a very basic, it was called homestead herbalism. It was, how to make fire cider and cough syrups and mustard plaster and, comfrey poultices and just basic, simple things you can do to care for yourself and your family and your friends. And it just lit up this like cell deep thing inside of me that felt, it was new to me, but it felt so natural. Even like reading and hearing words like galactagogue and amenagogue and adaptogen and all of those fun old herbal words, it felt like a remembering, even though I was learning them for the first time. So after that course, I, took some time to let all of that sink in and integrate. And I knew I wanted to further my studies. And so I took the 11-month long clinical intensive course with Thomas Easley at the Eclectic School of Herbal Medicine. And that really like catapulted my medicine making and my practice into like the next universe. And when he says intensive, he means intensive. And it was I always say it was one of the hardest and best things that I've ever done for myself. Because not only did I learn so much about the plants and medicine making, but I learned, I made lifelong friends. Our mutual friend Lindsay, I met there, and she's one of my nearest and dearest. And yeah, so that was in 2017 that I graduated from that program. And you continue on the path. I feel like it's one of those lifelong apprenticeship things when you decide to follow, the herbal way, is you're never done learning. I don't believe in the words master herbalist. We're all still learning. And I just continue, I go to conferences, online classes here and there. And it's just, I'm constantly putting myself in the way of learning new things about plants because there's no shortage of there's no shortage of plant people and new things to learn, new books to read, new classes to take. It's just it keeps that flame burning inside of me.
Yeah. And when you did Thomas's class, was that in person then? You did that intensive where you went down there or was it online?
So I live in Pennsylvania and the school is in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's
And
what I was wondering.
I did it as a distant student.
Oh,
My
cool.
kids were a lot younger then. I have a whole life here. I was working part-time as a massage therapist, and I have a house and a mortgage and all those adult
Right.
things. And so I was a distance student, and I would sign on in the afternoon. Class was from, I think, 12 to 5, Monday through Thursday. I would sign on for about an hour or two before I had to go to work. And by the time I got home from work in the evening, the recording for the day would be posted in our online classroom. So I would get on and watch the recording at double speed and to not have to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But I made several trips down there during the course of the program. Like if there was a weekend medicine making intensive or guest teachers that I really wanted to see. So I made several trips down there, probably about 6 or 7 trips over the course of the
Oh, wow.
11 months. And yeah, it was
Was that?
challenging, but
Yeah.
rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really impressive fitting that into your life and just that Monday through Thursday must have been really, really
It was
long days.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
was not a whole lot of other adulting that got done.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, all right, the kids are fed, everyone's alive. Now it's class time.
Mhm. And you're also a ceramic artist, which is just a fun combination because, as herbalists, we love mugs. And that was,
Yes.
you had all sorts of different beautiful ceramics at your booth. But yeah, I really admired those as well. And you've been doing that for many decades now.
Yeah, so I've been doing it, I always say on and off, for 30 years.
Mm.
I was probably 13 or 14 the first time I touched clay on a wheel, and it felt like one of those things like plants. The first
Mm.
time I, felt that awakening inside of me, it felt like some kind of ancestral memory that was awakened. And I just knew, I was like, this is a thing that I do, even though
Mm.
I wasn't, you're never very good the first time you do it. But I just knew it was one of those things that I can do. And it's also, something else that comes from the earth that
Mhm.
we can work with and communicate with and have relationship with. And
Mhm.
also learn about ourselves through, clay as a medium of learning about yourself is, I feel has been just as profound as plants for me.
Mm. That's beautiful. Well, Ruthie, how I know you is through like your beautiful writing and just how you share about the magic of herbs. And you also have this call to Celtic ancestry. And so I'm wondering how that came about. How did you find, like you've talked about doing the homesteading course, doing the Thomas Easley intensive. And yeah, I'm just wondering, how did you like find your own voice and your passion through this process?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always known that I've had Celtic ancestry, but I was raised in a very conservative Christian home. So
Mm.
there wasn't a lot of space for exploring that. And in 2018, I think it was, I was invited to work with Sharon Blackie.
Mm.
Who I've done some of her online courses previously, like her Celtic Studies course and some other things. So I through working with her and for her, because she, has a master's in Celtic studies, and she talks a lot about her spiritual connection to the land and being enchanted by the natural world. It
That's my
really,
favorite book by her, by the way. This Enchanted Life. That's my favorite one. Yeah.
yeah, the Enchanted Life, yeah. So, and then she invited me to write part of one of her courses that was called Sisters of Rock and Root, which is no longer a thing. But it was all about the 8 Celtic festivals and the ritual year and what we, know about them from a scholarly perspective. But then how can we make those traditions relevant today, and make them feel relevant to us personally
Mhm.
in a more modern context? And my work with her took me to Ireland a couple of times, 3 times, and uh, yeah, I just was able to experience that connection for myself in a place that felt like a home that I had never been.
Mhm.
So, and I mean, I've got a lot of stories about, traveling that country by myself and just, being open to and receiving really profound medicine from that land. And so I'm just always kind of viewing my work. My work is very inspired by Celtic spiritualism and a large part Celtic animism, which is the concept of, trees and rocks and plants all have their own individual spirits and their own personalities and their own medicine and things that we can learn from them. And so that's become what my work is today, whether I'm writing or, making a tincture or, thinking about a new pottery design I want to make, is how does that light that part of me up?
Mhm.
And I think that infusing myself, that part of myself in my work, I mean, you just can't go wrong when you're infusing your own wonder of the magic natural world into your work.
That's beautifully said, Ruthie. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing that. And yeah, it's just obviously this thread of remembrance comes up a lot for you throughout your life in many different aspects, and just what a beautiful thing to be able to connect with that and have that inspiration pull you forward.
Yeah, it feels like a remembering in the sense of, what you think of when you think of the word remembering, you're recalling something, but also like a remembering, like a putting back together
Mm,
of part of myself.
mm. Wow, that's yeah, gave me goosebumps there. That's cool. Well, I'm very excited to hear what you have to share about Hawthorn because this is a favorite of mine. Probably it could be the plant that I work with the most often, really. I was thinking about it. There's, I think, hardly a day goes by where I'm not working with hawthorn in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I'm excited to dive in.
So yeah, I mean, hawthorn, you say you work with it so often, its medicine is so accessible, right?
Mm.
I mean, I wish there were more hawthorn trees that grew where I live here in Pennsylvania. They're just not a very common tree.
Mm.
Um, but I fell in love with hawthorn when we were required to write 20 monographs in herb school,
Mm.
and one of them had to be like 20 pages long or something like that.
Mm.
And I was already writing a monograph about hawthorn and just absolutely got swept away by the stories it has around it. You know, there's so much research on the plant because it has been around for so long. It's like one of those plants that's like an ancestor to us. It's so prevalent in so many cultures and traditions. And so hawthorn just really like took me literally away with the fairies. I felt like when I was researching it and writing about it, like I just could not get enough of it.
Mm.
And it just, I love hawthorn because like I said, its medicine is so accessible
Mm.
and is so prevalent in so many like folk traditions. And it feels like a reconnecting
Mm.
with folk traditions. Like no matter, you know, I have Celtic ancestry and Scandinavian, or if you like have, you know, ancestry from other parts of the world where it is where hawthorn is native and endemic. So yeah, the medicine, we think of hawthorn as heart medicine, right? First and foremost. And I'm going to talk about 3 different body systems that hawthorn has medicine for. Obviously, the heart first, you know, the leaves and the flowers and the berries. And when I make hawthorn medicine, I always include a thorn, no matter what I'm doing. Like even in my hawthorn leaf and flower tea that I have here, I put a little thorn in the French press because I feel like that adds the hawthorn's magic into it.
Hmm.
So, but you know, it being just so beneficial to your cardiovascular system, you know, it can lower the bad cholesterol and raise the good cholesterol. It is nutritive and really kind of tropho-restorative to the entire cardiovascular system by reducing plaque in your arteries and by increasing, you know, the strength of your heart's pumping so that more oxygenated blood can be pushed throughout your system, which I mean the cascade effects of that alone, I mean, we wouldn't even be able to cover here in an hour
Mhm.
because it's just so nourishing. And I always think of the berries, like the bright red berries, as being specific to the actual heart muscle and the bigger
Mm.
arteries, and the more delicate leaves and flowers as being specific for like the peripheral, like those small little capillaries you have in your periphery. So yeah, let's see. I That's cardiovascular, and so we are also going to talk about the benefits for the nervous system. And I think that hawthorn can benefit your nervous system by way of calming that nervous anxiety that you get with like heart palpitations.
Mm.
And, you know, Matthew Wood also uses it. I think David Winston also uses it for insomnia, for, you know, when you feel like you're, he calls it, I think, high blood. There's too much blood flow to your brain. You just need to like, you need to like spread it out, normalize it, and and be able to calm yourself down enough to go to sleep, really.
Mhm.
Um, and digestive, that was the other one. That was one that really surprised me when I was researching hawthorn, is that it has a long traditional use of being used as a digestive support for when you're eating like heavy foods, like, you know, fatty meats and rich foods like that. And I was really confused by that at first because you really think of bitter herbs for digestive support, and hawthorn's not really bitter. So I kind of dug into the mechanism there a little bit, and I don't have any proof for this or studies that support it, but my thinking is that maybe it's so nutritive and nourishing that, maybe there's some gut lining being nourished and healed there, where, that's where we assimilate all of those, fats and lipids into our bloodstream. But,
Hmm.
that's just my idea. I'm not saying that there might be studies out there to back it up, but so yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's an interesting perspective for the digestion there. Yeah, it's
yeah,
fascinating.
just so many. It's just medicine for so many parts of our bodies, our physical bodies, and also our emotional selves too. Like it's one of the first plants I think of for, like broken heart syndrome or any kind
Mhm.
of grief, whether it's, grief from, the loss of a loved one or a pet, or grief from being uprooted and, having to move far away and start all over, or the loss of a relationship, or whatever kind of grief. I think of hawthorn first and foremost, and that's why I include it in my grief formula for anyone who is experiencing any kind of heartache.
Hmm.
It's just so, it's like a gentle holding. It's so protective. If you think of hawthorn uh, in its plant form and where it grows, it's a plant of the hedge, and a hedge is protective. And, hawthorn has those, those gnarly thorns. And so you have to approach it carefully and delicately, or else you're going to get stuck. And it's also, so it's protective. Think of all of the animals that can live in a hedgerow. They're like these centers for, all of this magic and life. And hawthorn has those very nourishing berries, so it's nourishing and protective. Like that's the signature of the plant. It's nourishing and protective, while it's in the ground growing to everything around it. And it's also nourishing and protective in our human bodies.
Yeah, it's such amazing medicine. Hearing you speak about it, I often think this way about hawthorn, but you're bringing it up for me again, where it's such amazing medicine, and there is no drug, pharmaceutical drug, that does what hawthorn does. The nourishing, like there's no drug out there. We have no drug commercials that is like, work with this drug to,
Mhm.
spread the energy of the heart throughout the body to, both reduce, or we could say maybe balance cholesterol levels, or and address high blood pressure issues, and just all this stuff. It's such amazing medicine, yet it's completely overlooked by Western medicine, even though there is solid research on it. But yeah, there's not a lot of people who are going in and considering just the prevalence of heart disease these days. That's one reason I get really excited about hawthorn. I think there's just no reason why anyone should not take it unless there's very few contraindications out there. There's
Mhm.
a few people, not everyone, but if someone's prone to low blood pressure, then that might be a contraindication for some people. Um, but there's, very few contraindications there. And so, yeah, I just think, 91% of the population could really enjoy hawthorn in their everyday lives. And it really is just beautiful food as well as medicine too. So, yeah, but just, yeah, if you like I could just imagine that conversation going to any doctor and being like, what if there was a drug that did this and this and
Right.
this and was
Yeah.
also a balm for heartache? And, and they'd just be like, whoa, what could possibly do that? No,
Here, eat this
very,
hawthorn jelly.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree, and I think that's just one of the most beautiful things about herbalism is the intelligence of plants. I'm not trying to insult modern medicine at all. There's a time and a place for it, and thank God for it. But,
Mhm.
you know, how many different prescriptions would you need to improve the tone, elasticity, and health of your arteries, reduce plaque, normalize blood pressure, and normalize cholesterol? That's like 5 different medications right there. It's
Mhm.
just, and to also have very few contraindications and interactions with other medications. It's just
and negative effects as well.
and negative effects. That's right.
Very
Yeah.
few. Yeah.
Oh, and also you can feel happier in your
Yeah.
heart.
And
Finally,
enjoy the medicine too, because yeah, you mentioned
and it
hawthorn
tastes
jelly. It tastes good. Yeah, when I was in Ireland just this past summer,
good.
I bought hawthorn jelly for fun because I had to, and so I enjoyed that every morning. And I've been experimenting this fall with making hawthorn barbecue sauce, which has been absolutely
Ooh,
fantastic. And yeah, so super delicious. And I love Hawthorn Oxymel. That's kind of one of my most common ways that I work with it. And I make Hawthorn tea for my husband every morning. So it's just so delightful. And you have also shared a wonderful recipe with us. Your Anam Cara heart opening cordial. Would you mind speaking a little bit about that for us?
yeah. So Anam Cara is Irish for soul friend. And it is also the title of a book by John O'Donoghue, who is one of Ireland's most beloved poets, writers, Celtic mystic. He just was a beautiful human being. He's no longer alive, but his work was has been very inspirational to me in kind of honing in how I feel about the world and see my place in the world.
Mm,
And so Anam Cara is my heart opening cordial that I like to pass around. Like if I am in sacred space with friends or just wanting my own heart to feel a little bit softer and more open, I will take it by myself. So it's very hawthorn forward, obviously. So it's got the berries and the leaves and the flowers. And of course, I put one thorn in every jar of it
mm,
that I make. And it has a lot of the other rose family plants of the hedge, like brambles, or Americans would call it blackberries, and apple, which is another one of those. Apple trees kind of resemble hawthorn trees in that like gnarly, wizened way,
mm,
and it's also in the rose family and has a lot of magical lore that goes along with it. And I just love it's just a very sweet. I mean, you just take a couple drops of it and you can't help but smile because it just feels like, your heart is opening up, you're
mm.
feeling more connected and open. And so, yeah, Anam Cara, I love to give that as gifts to friends, to my beloveds. It's one of my most favorite formulas. I remember when I kind of got the universal download for that formula. I was on a walk in the woods listening actually to a John O'Donoghue talk on YouTube. And I thought, well, what if I don't think he was even talking about Hawthorn, but I just thought, well, what if I used all of those magical rose family plants of the hedge and put them all in a jar together and used it to help us connect to one another.
Mm.
'Cause I just feel like, this world just needs a lot more human connection in it. And that's never a bad thing, right?
Mhm. I love how this can be very much a bioregional blend too. People can go out and find the
Yeah,
rose
there are
family
things
in
like
their neck of the woods.
wineberries, which are wineberries in my area are considered to be invasive, and that to me is kind of a loaded word and a whole other podcast. But they're like a wild raspberry.
Mhm.
You could also use raspberries instead of wineberries. You can omit the choke berries if you don't have access to them. Another name for them is aronia berries. And you can kind of customize the formula, even if you just use the hawthorn berries, flowers, and leaves, which are very easily available in commerce.
Mhm.
They're very accessible plants to find. Even if you just use the parts of the hawthorn to make that cordial, I think that you could have a really lovely heart medicine there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing this Anam Cara recipe with us, and we'll have a beautiful illustrated download for folks. You can find that at herbswithrosaleepodcasts.com or check out the show notes to get that so you can make your own blend. And I'm looking forward to this one. It's, yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. let me know if you'd
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah, I will. I will. Yeah, I'm already excited thinking about like what's around me that can be a part of this. So
Yeah, and that's the beauty of herbalism is how can I personalize this medicine for me, and how can I, explore my own earth space to make it
mhm.
more you know ethical and accessible to
Yeah.
wherever you're planted. Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking to earlier what you're talking about, fused with our own wonder and joy and, explorations of the world around
Because
us as
those things
well.
are medicine too.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, it's Rosalee. Creating this podcast has been one of the most rewarding parts of my herbal work. And if you found something meaningful here, whether it's a new perspective, a favorite recipe, or just a sense of calm, I want to let you know there's a good way to go even deeper. It's called the Podcast Circle. Inside, you'll get access to live classes taught by some of my favorite herbal teachers, behind the scenes updates, and a beautiful library of herbal resources that we've gathered over the years. But more than that, it's a space to connect with fellow plant lovers who care about the same things you do. And truly, your membership helps make this podcast possible. It's how we keep the episodes coming and the herbal goodness flowing. So if you're ready to be part of something more, something rooted in connection, head over to herbalpodcastcircle.com. I'd love to see you there. Oh, Ruthie, is there anything else that you would like to share about Hawthorn?
Hawthorn. Yeah, I just think if you have access to a hawthorn tree, go sit with it and see what it has to say to you, because I guarantee you it has medicine for you in that way.
Lovely. Thank you. I planted a couple of hawthorns on my property here. Two of our native, or three native hawthorns, and then one of the Crataegus
Mhm.
monogyna. And yeah, that Crataegus monogyna is taking a really long time. I got it, it was maybe like 6 inches tall, and now it's like 30 inches tall, and it's been 7 years. So it's an investment,
Yeah,
but still a lovely one to have around.
your descendants 7 generations from now will
Mm-hmm.
appreciate
Yep,
that.
yep, that's kind of the case. I do. One of my favorite aspects of being in Ireland is the hedgerows,
Oh
and
yeah.
hawthorn as a part of that is just. I feel like people are like, "Oh, did you kiss the Blarney Stone, or did you go see the library in Dublin?" Even, and I'm like, "No, I just went to the hedgerows." That's what
No,
I do.
did you go visit the hedgerow? I've only ever been there in the spring, and it's like literally like the hedgerows look like snowdrifts,
Hmm.
dividing this patchwork of green fields everywhere. It's
All the
just
brambles and the hawthorn, and yeah,
amazing. And one of
yeah.
the
This.
first things I did last time I went there, um, for Herb Feast, there's the conference that happens there every year, and I can't make it there every year. I wish I could, but there was a hawthorn on the property there, and I fashioned a hawthorn crown for myself and a friend of mine out of it. And I just feel like that's another way that the tree has medicine is, you know, giving you those little bits of feeling magical and just enchanted with it.
So true. Yes, it's so easy to fall in love with the hawthorn, especially in
Mm,
the springtime. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Well, Ruthie, what have you got going on in your herbal world? Do you have anything,
Oh, I got
projects you're working on? And yeah, a lot. Let's hear about it.
yeah. I'm always in the kitchen medicine making. Right now, I have a new class that just started. I have an online course called The Hedgewalker's Path, which
Oh.
is a 6-month medicine making apprenticeship. And it's all online. We meet live a couple times a month. And yes, there is lots of magic and ritual uses of herbs in it, as well as how to calculate tincture volumes and things like that. So I've got that happening, and I've got a new course coming out, hopefully by the spring, about how we can observe the 8 Celtic festivals of the year through the
Oh,
lens of herbs and ritual.
Oh, I love that. That is a favorite topic of mine. I did take Sharon's Black Weeks course on that. We were talking about that, but it's something that I love to revisit over and over again, especially like you said, how do we like bring herbs into that? How do we bring our own climate and season where we live into that? Like for example, Beltane
Mhm.
is I'm not going to say synonymous with Hawthorn, but it's very much, this kind of, I think of it as Hawthorn's holiday, Beltane. Where I live, the Hawthorn doesn't bloom around Beltane at all. We have other plants that are going on. And so it's like, how do we like, bring that observation and awareness and wonder and awe to the seasons as they unfold around us. And yeah, it's just a continually unfolding magical experience that I love.
I can't believe we got this far in without me. Actually, I'm so glad that you brought that up, that I haven't mentioned the connection with Hawthorn and the festival of Beltane. I hear Beltane, Beltane, it's whatever. I'm not correcting you. I'm just saying people say it differently. So, yeah, it's I can't think of May 1st without thinking of a blooming hawthorn,
Mm.
and how, they're called trysting trees in some of the lore, because it's springtime and the earth is coming alive, and we have all of this, the generative, powerful, potent, seductive energy happening in our earth space, and that's contagious to humans also. So you might be out meeting somebody under a trysting tree for for a fancy springtime al fresco naughty time.
You're selling it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something else interesting about the hawthorn. So if you've ever smelled a hawthorn flower, it does not have a nice floral scent to it. It kind
Mm.
of, the scent has been described as, rotting flesh and, or dead fish or something else, not very appealing or seductive, or it's not a very sexy smell. But when I was doing my research on hawthorn for my monograph, I dug into the scent profile of it. And because it smells like rotting flesh, it is pollinated by, it attracts like flies and things like that that are normally attracted to dead animals. But that scent is also, I think it's called triethylamine. So that uh, chemical is also present in human sexual fluids. So maybe people are smelling that and thinking, "Oh, it's time for that." When
Mm.
the
That's
hawthorn
an
is,
interesting connection with a plant that just is so much,
yeah,
yeah, woven with that sort of folklore and history and yeah,
yeah.
tradition, we could say.
So that's why I like to call it the Celtic tree of sex and death. It holds all of
Mm.
these dichotomies in it. It's protective and nourishing. It has those thorns, but it's also protective. That scent can remind you of procreation. It can also remind you of death.
Mm.
And, is it the tree of ecstasy or turmoil? Are you having fun underneath of it in the springtime, or are you, you know, having a hawthorn stuck into your thumb and you're trying to heal it? But yeah, I love that about Hawthorn too, because it embodies so many of those, what are binaries, and it is,
Mhm.
it's not an either or, it's a both and I
Mhm.
love that about it too.
Yeah, yeah, and then of course there's all the folklore around it, being sometimes a portal to the land of the Sidhe, the
For sure.
fairies of the Irish, and
Yeah.
yeah, those single hawthorn that you see out on the land. We went when I was in Ireland this past time. We went to a circle of standing stones, and there was that singular hawthorn right there at the base of one of the trees. It was an old tree, and it was definitely. I mean, you could just feel like, yeah, I wouldn't want to fall asleep under that tree. Like that's.
Was it Piper's Stone Circle? Piper's
Oh my!
Circle?
I do not remember. Yeah, yeah.
You
Someone
probably
knew
have to
the
have
name.
a fence to get there in the middle of a cow pasture or something.
Yes, actually, it was like that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it might be the same one that I'm thinking of my friend Deirdre took me there last time I was in Ireland. It's not too far from her house. It's called Piper Stone Circle, and it's this hawthorn tree that like grows sideways for a little bit and then up. And, people have attached all kinds of little mementos and scraps of fabric to it and left little coins and wishes on it. And I love that it is considered to be one of those guardian trees, and it is often very symbolic of that portal, that in between this world and the other. And it has so much story around it involving the fae folk and people falling asleep underneath of it, like Rumpelstiltskin style, and waking up and they haven't aged at all, but everything around them in their world has all this time has passed. And I actually thought an interesting parallel to that, how we could kind of see the medicine, the physical medicine in the story, is that maybe hawthorn keeps you young by such good care of your heart and your cardiovascular system. And maybe that's how that medicine got woven into that story, is you fall asleep under it for 7 years, you wake up and everything else has changed, but you haven't.
Yeah, and that's another. It's such a beautiful tradition, the prayer, the fabric with the prayer and stuff. When we went to that tree, we were told we could take off all the plastic bits that last there forever.
Yeah.
So it was like, instead of and leave the linen and cotton
that.
behind, but
Thank you for
but
saying that.
the plastic bits aren't part of the tradition so much.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you do visit a hawthorn tree, please do not leave anything non-biodegradable. Like take a like scrap of cotton or linen or hemp fabric with you, because that's the whole point to the tradition, is you infuse, what is hurting you, your wounds, whether they're emotional or physical, into this piece of fabric. You tie it on the tree, and as it disintegrates, the fairies have taken your ailments away.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, well, it's fun. We get to get into a little bit of the lore of hawthorn. There's so much there. And just obviously, we humans have been fascinated with this tree for so long and in so many ways, and often the land. There's just something about those singular hawthorns that just have a different. I love the hedgerow hawthorns as well. Those singular hawthorns. There's just a power and a mystery there.
I remember driving around in West Clare with a friend of mine, and we were driving down the highway, and she said, "Oh, there's that hawthorn that they rerouted the entire motorway for."
Well, I've heard of this. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think it's in Limerick, and they, had this motorway planned, and there was a hawthorn tree right in the path of where this road was supposed to be. And the county or the town council, all, got in an uproar about it. You absolutely are not cutting down this tree, because it was not only sacred to them, but, in their belief, if you cut down a hawthorn, you're incurring the wrath of the fae for the rest of your life, basically. In Ireland, fairies aren't these little Tinkerbell characters.
Yeah, you don't want to piss them off.
They can really cause some trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, so they rerouted it. Yeah.
They did. They totally did. And the tree is still there. It watches all the cars go past, but the tree still stands. I love that.
Well, Ruthie, if there's other people out there, which I'm sure there are, like me, who are very interested in your offerings and your upcoming seasonal course, where can they find you and how best to stay in touch?
You can find me at motherhildy.com. I'm on Instagram by the same name. You can email me, ruthie@motherhildy.com. I'm all over the socials, so I'm not very hard to find.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I have one last question before we go. And that question is, what do you wish you'd known when you were just starting out with herbs?
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is, don't tincture everything you can get your hands on. It's so exciting when you're first learning medicine making to just tincture everything, even if you don't know what you're going to do with it or what it's used for, or even if it's safe. I still have tinctures I made more than 10 years ago, because tinctures last a really long time. But I mean, really, it's kind of disrespectful to the plant. It's expensive for the alcohol. It's a bit unethical to be harvesting and tincturing everything that you can find. So I would just say be more mindful about your medicine making practices. I also wish I would have known what really surprised me about being an herbalist is, the personal spiritual fulfillment that I've gotten from it. It's not just, learning what plants are for from books and from classes. It's the personal connection that you can have with the plants. And, as I said before, I was raised in a very conservative Christian home, which felt like it didn't fit me. Being able to have a spiritual path that really feels like it fits me, and it has been huge in my own personal growth. So whatever spiritual path you're on, the plants can have medicine for you. You don't just have to be a plant person to get that medicine from the plants. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the ways that herbalism can be truly transformative, that connection to the land and the feeling of being a part of a greater thing. And about the tinctures, that's probably one of my number one pieces of advice for folks too, because I did that. I tinctured everything I could get my hands on, and
because it's so fun.
Yeah, and it's so fun. And it was enthusiasm driven, and I thought I was I did open a free clinic for a while, so I kind of had that like pushing me, but then that didn't really pan out. And so, just so much waste of the plants. Like you said, the alcohol, I mean, there's just like, hundreds and hundreds of dollars of wasted money, and then time, and the plants, and that was an unfortunate. So we could tell people, like, at least like I made quarts. It was like I always made a quart of tincture, always, in the mason jar. And so, like at the very least, consider making like even a half pint. Just make a little bit if you really need to go for it. Yeah, don't have to make a quart. So
I'm still working through a quart of shepherd's purse tincture that I like. You don't often find use for it, and I have some midwife friends that use it, and I give it to them. But it's not every birth that they have use for it. So it has lasted quite a long time. A quart of shepherd's purse. Yeah,
I'll imagine. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing your joy of Hawthorn and your story with us, and your wisdom as well. It's been wonderful to be able to connect with you, Ruthie.
Thank you so much, Rosalee. This was so delightful.
Yay. Well, thanks again for being here.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening. You can download your illustrated recipe card from today's episode. Just head over to herbswithrosaleepodcast.com or check out the show notes for a link. And if you're not already subscribed, I'd love to have you as part of this herbal community so I can deliver even more herbal goodies your way. This podcast is made possible, in part, by our awesome Herbs with Rosalee students. This week's student spotlight is on Sarah Gomez in Kansas City, Missouri. Sarah has been a part of our herbal community for many years, taking courses like Rooted Medicine Circle, Cooling Inflammation, and the Herbal Energetics course. With more than 25 years of herbal study, she brings both wisdom and playfulness to her work, balancing a long career in technology with a daily connection to the plants. In the Herbal Energetics course, Sarah explored turmeric with creativity and enthusiasm, adding it to stir fries, golden milk, and even inspiring her to buy a yellow dress. Her reflection showed how turmeric's warmth and cheer can brighten both body and spirit, and how herbalism truly comes alive in the kitchen. To honor her contributions, Mountain Rose Herbs is sending Sarah a $50 gift certificate to stock up on their incredible selection of organically and sustainably sourced herbal supplies. Thank you so much to Mountain Rose Herbs for supporting our amazing students. All right, you've made it to the very end of the show, which means you get your very own gold star and this herbal tidbit. Well, while we commonly say hawthorn berries, the fruits of hawthorn tree are technically called haws. That's the traditional botanical word, and they're actually tiny pomes, like little cousins of apples and pears. So yeah, most people say hawthorn berries. I say hawthorn berries. Totally fine, but haws is the more older, accurate term there. So haws often ripen in the autumn, but they stay on the trees well until winter in many places. And then these haws become a favorite food of birds like waxwings. So waxwings will flock to hawthorn trees in huge chattering groups, and they can strip a tree clean in under an hour. It's really a beautiful reminder that hawthorn nourishes more than just us. It feeds and shelters whole communities. As always, thank you for joining me. I'll see you in the next episode.